Hello everyone. My name is Elise. Welcome to my channel. I hope you're all doing so good today. We are doing a ranking video of all of the poetry that I read in 2023. I did this last year at the beginning of the year, all the poetry read in 2022, and I really enjoyed doing it, but I didn't do any of those this year. So I've been saving this list for Poetry Month. So April is National Poetry Month. I always like to do a dedicated video on my channel to celebrate poetry because it's so wonderful and lovely as a form. And yeah, we're gonna rank everything that I read in 2023. Now, Storygraph has that I read 10 poetry collections in 2023. I'm only gonna be talking about 8, and that's because 2 of the books included poetry, but were mainly a different form. So I'm not gonna include these. I'm just gonna do straight poetry collections and we'll go from there. So I'll be starting from the bottom all the way to the top. And I read a lot of great poetry last year. So I'm really excited to get to talk about some of these again. And hopefully this can be a good resource for you. Even if your taste doesn't align with me, you might be interested in one of the other ones that I'm talking about. So starting in at number 8, we have Homebody by Rupi Kaur. And this is the newest collection from Rupi Kaur. I have read 2 of their previous collections. I'm not sure if that's all of them or not, or if there's more, but this one was actually my least favorite from her. I'm not sure if that's just because my own tastes have changed or if I just personally didn't align with this one as well, but this one was kind of so-so for me. She has a very short form style with a lot of her poetry, and I think that just didn't give me a lot of time to invest in what she was saying. I do really like that she has illustrations along with her work, and I do, for people who like that really small, short form, relatable poetry style, I think this could work for you. My favorite collection from her is Milk and Honey, the one with the black cover. That's still far and away my favorite one that she's done, so I would definitely recommend that one first, but this one was good, just not as good as the other ones for me. After that, we have the Heiress / Ghost Acres in at number 7. This is by Lightsy Darst, and it's published by Coffee House Press. If I remember the publisher, I will put it, but I won't be able to remember them all, I don't think. This one is really interesting. It's cut into 2 halves. One is the Heiress, one is Ghost Acres. And the stories that I really like have to do with like lineage and heritage of the author's ancestors, particularly one that she includes a portrait of in the book, which I enjoyed looking at a lot compared to her portrait. So I liked all of those poems. Some of the other stuff I didn't like as much, and that's really why it's lower on the list. I think it's still a great collection, but just a little bit more hit and miss on what I was connecting with in this collection. Then we have Couplets by Maggie Millner. This was really popular whenever it came out. I don't know if it came out last year or the year before, and I read this in the first half of the year. It is a love story, I would say kind of like a toxic love story that's told in couplets. And I think for me, this was almost like slightly too long. It is published as like, so it's one story that's almost like novella length, but it's all couplets. And it did just feel a little bit dragged out for me. It was like, okay, I get it. I've kind of read that story before. It didn't feel super original to me, and it doesn't have to, but that just hampered my enjoyment of it because I had read something like other things that felt very similar. I do think the couplets were very beautiful, and I'm sure that was extremely challenging to have to write the whole story that way, but ultimately just didn't enjoy the subject matter as much as I know other people did. So still recommend this if you like reading about that kind of like toxic first love, infatuation type of story, because it did a really good job of portraying that. All right, coming in at number 5, we have Home, New Arabic Poems by a variety of authors and a variety of translators. This came out from Two Lines Press in their Calico series, and this one again, hit and miss. This is an anthology of different authors, so that's even more to be expected. But I think it was like 4 out of the 7 or 8 authors I really, really enjoyed the work of, and the other half I didn't. So that's why I put it kind of in the middle, because it was half and half for me. But would definitely recommend. I think this is a really accessible poetry collection to get into, because you're getting to sample from a lot of different authors and see a lot of different styles side by side. So I think that's a fun way to kind of enter into poetry, to start learning what you might like a little bit more. So would recommend this for people who are trying to get a lot of variety in a small package that's been very carefully curated by a team. So enjoyed this one overall. And now we're heading into ones that I really, really loved. Like, this is like the creme de la creme for me in poetry that I read last year. And it's so hard to rank these, but I feel solid about my ranking, at least as of today. So we're gonna go for it. So in at number 4, we're gonna have And Yet, which is by Kate Baer. I really like Kate Baer's poetry. This is the 3rd collection that I've read from her. My favorite one is still her collection of erasure poems, but this one is very good. She often talks about femininity and womanhood and motherhood a lot in this new collection. It's extremely honest. Like, the poetry is very straightforward, and it's got a lot of memoir in it. So I'm always just impressed by people who can like just lay everything about themselves out on the page, and she does a really good job of it. So that's number 4. Coming in at number 3, we have Content Warning Everything by Akwaeke Emezi. This was lovely. Almost like every poem in here was a banger. There's one about loving stories and storytelling that I just adored, and it has so many Easter eggs in it of things that the author and myself kind of grew up with, that were stories that really informed and impacted them. Love that poem in particular. I still remember it really well, and yeah, just really well curated. I think this one might be from Copper Canyon Press. That could be wrong though, but I think that's who published this one. So really, really enjoyed. It does have a lot of trigger warnings in it, so the title is apt. So look into that going in, but really liked it and would highly recommend. And then we have, surprisingly, in at number 2, Dog Songs by Mary Oliver. This is published by Penguin, and I raved about this last year. I think it was my favorite poetry collection for a lot of the year. So it being at number 2 is shocking for me as well, but I absolutely adored it. It's such a wholesome, heartwarming story about the author's relationship with all these dogs that have been in her life since she was a young girl. And it's so good. It made me have a newfound appreciation and love for my own dog, about this beautiful connection that we have with animals and how they kind of help us return to the natural world in a way. It's so, so good. I would highly recommend it. It has beautiful illustrations as well. So read it if you're interested in it at all. You will enjoy it if that sounds good to you. And then at number 1, the top poetry collection that I read in the year of 2023 is Alive at the End of the World by Saeed Jones. This is published by Coffee House Press. And I have thought about this collection so much since I read it. And I read it in April of 2023, and the poems have come back to me. I've been thinking about rereading it. The whole collection is amazing. There's not a dud in there, and there's a ton of variety in the poetry in there as well, which I was shocked by. It talks a lot about his mother and the grief of his relationship with his mother, how complicated their love was, but yet also how real their love was. It was just fabulous, and I would definitely recommend that anyone pick this up. Whether you're a newcomer to poetry or not, I think the emotions that he's grappling with really come off the page, and thought it was absolutely fantastic. Those are the 8 poetry collections that I read last year, ranked in order, and I hope you found some things that you might enjoy and pick up for Poetry Month for yourself this year. And I am already reading some more collections for this year, so here's hoping that we all pick up some great poetry that we love. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.